This is 2 Minutes Together, a ministry of Central Lutheran Church, Eugene, Oregon. I'm Pastor Ben. This week, we celebrate Reformation Sunday. There's many aspects to Reformation and why we celebrate that as Lutherans, and here I am with a famous picture of Martin Luther. But I'd like to focus on just one thing: the way we remember. The way we look back at past events, like the Reformation. Our stewardship theme this fall is the bridge from the past, in the present, to the future. See, we look back at the past, and our goal is not to make our lives now like the past, nor is it as simple as to say, well, there were some good things in the past, let's take those and apply them. But instead, we look at the past because the past formed us in who we are. That's what makes it history. If it is something that is totally dissociated with us, we don't call it history at all. We don't even call it. It's not part of our lives. The things we talk about, the things that have formed us, are the things that are still alive in some level. Sometimes because they're so present and we fill that world just like them. Sometimes because we obviously don't. We say, well, we'll never make sure that never happens again, because we recognize it could, because we in the present are products of what came before. And so we look to the past and we recognize there were good and bad things in the past, and there might be grief that in the present, the world we live in is different than it was in the past. The dreams and hopes we had, some of the joys we had for different things in the past are simply not here anymore. Many of you remember when there were large confirmation classes or really large church attendance weekly, and it just feels different now. And we need to provide grief for that in the past, but still recognizing we live in the present. In fact, that's why we have grief, is because we focus on the present and see it is different. It's not all bad. In fact, it's a quite good time to be the church, a time where there is truly new and amazing opportunities, but they're different. And then as we look on into the future, we don't exactly know what that is, but we orient ourselves with a vision forward. How are we proclaiming Christ crucified in new ways that we could do through the freedom of the gospel that Martin Luther so adamantly presented to us, and that we have the ability to speak and proclaim the gospel in new ways. We recognize it's different. We grieve some of the things we lost and we miss, but we are empowered for the future now to start things all afresh and all anew. It is always the case that the past leads us into the present so we can move forward to the future. It has always been the case that every generation looks and says, we are on to something new, because inherently it is something new. We remember the Reformation because we recognize who we are and where we are going, that we are God's children, and that the church that we embody is God's church, and it has gone through all kinds of periods and has survived and will survive because of the power of God. What that means for the institutions that we have now is a different story, but that this is God's church. The Reformation reminds us that we are in the present and looking forward to the future. This is 2 Minutes Together. I'm Pastor Ben.